Nobody could hear me last night.
Just keep it close. Fred always did
I
this.
did. I always put it, I had it right here last time. Okay, and you? Good.
Okay, the time is now 7:01. I'll call this meeting of the Bridgewater Town Council to order. Please join me in rising for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This town council meeting is being streamed live via YouTube. Please go to the Town of Bridgewater Facebook page for the link. Tonight we do have condolences for one of our veterans, Mr. David L. Smers. He served in the U.S. Army. He passed on April 26th, 2025. I'd like to ask for a moment of silence for Mr. Smers and his family and friends. Thank you. Okay.
President Loretti, could we possibly just have a moment of silence for Adeline Ellenberg's mother who passed away?
Yes,
2
yes,
days ago?
absolutely.
Thank you.
And our condolences again, Ms. Ellenberg, for your mother.
Thank you.
Okay, item A, approval of minutes from our May 6th meeting.
I'd like to make a motion to amend.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Looking to amend new business E. It's resolution R FY 2512. It's on the school district budget funding that Councilor Striggles put forward. I just want to correct the councilor that made the motion was Ellenberg. I was the one who seconded, and the count on that motion was 8-1, with the only no vote being Councilor Murphy.
Okay. Do I have a second for that amendment?
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 And then I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Make the motion.
Oh, second. Second by Mr. Lindy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So for the next item, announcements from the president, I have a few announcements tonight. So firstly, Monday, as we all know, is Memorial Day. We want to invite all citizens to come out on Monday and remember those who made the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom. Last year, we had a great turnout, and we hope to build upon last year's success for this year's ceremony and parade. Please stay tuned for some more information from Veterans Agent, Mr. Greg Martin, who will be providing some more information during the citizen comments period coming up here next. And I hope to see you all on Monday. I also want to invite all residents out on next Saturday. This will be the first of a few Bridgewater farmers markets of the season. It's going to be Saturday, May 31st. As of just before this meeting, I checked on Facebook. There were over 3,600 people that were interested in the event, which is a very, very large number of people. So I hope that all those who are interested, they do come out. There are over 30 committed vendors that are going to be at the event at Town River Landing. And I'd just like to recognize Mr. Alice Serta and Fire for Effect Foundation for putting forward that effort. And I look forward to that amongst many other farmers market events this summer. I believe Al will also be making some comments this evening, so I'll refer to him for some more information. I also want to selfishly acknowledge our youngest and newest Bridgewater resident. My wife had our daughter this weekend. So we are happy to have her, join our community here. Yeah, Lucy Jo Loretti was born on Sunday at 5:36 a.m. and she's doing great. So we're happy to bring her into the world, and that's all I have for announcements. So next we have no proclamations, and we will now open up for citizen open forum. Due to Massachusetts open meeting law requirements, discussions will not take place during public comment periods. If appropriate, responses to questions and concerns will be given by the town manager at a future council meeting. Anyone may comment for up to 3 minutes, and just to honor everybody's time, I'll raise my hand and give you a 30-second warning so that we could keep everybody's comments to 3 minutes. Please do the best that you can. So would anybody like to come up and comment?
Thank you, Mr. President. And
Name and address for the record.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. John Donna, 261 South Street. Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Madam Vice President. And congratulations on the new addition to your family, Mr. President. I didn't get a chance to speak last meeting, but I just wanted to take a moment to congratulate the council members that were recently elected or re-elected, as the case may be. I want to especially congratulate Councilman Kennedy for being elected in your district. I know you spoke to a lot of people in town over the campaign, and you had the interests of the town in mind in running, and not to take anything away from your predecessor. I know he put a lot of time and effort and made some significant contributions to the town, but I think you're the right person at the right time to be elected to town council, so I was happy for that. I'm not a resident of your district, so I didn't have the privilege to vote for you, but I want to congratulate the voters in your district. Mr. President, I also want to recognize Dr. Michael Thomas. He's a resident that spoke in the opening and closing citizen forums last week. He spoke about the DEI committees in town and the subcommittee as a subcommittee of the school committee. And he had mentioned his concern that there were no meetings for the recent meetings on the DEI subcommittee on the school committee. And he also mentioned that their mission is to promote change. And I think he was correct in asking the town, or asking that committee, to make the town aware of what changes it is they are here to promote. I think Dr. Thomas said it very eloquently, so I'm not going to restate try to restate what he said. I would encourage all residents to take a moment this week and listen to what he said, both in opening and closing forum and our last town council meeting. It won't take long, but I think it would be helpful to the town to hear that. He also spoke briefly about the American flag standing for everyone. I know in this town we like to talk about flags and flagpoles, right? I've done it. But I think that the takeaway here was that what I remember Dr. Thomas saying is, if we continue to put up flags for individual groups, it has a way of working to divide us rather than unify us in some ways. As does DEI. I think there's an element that divides us. So he said, American flag stands for everyone, and we need to come to a realization to that so we can have some more unity in this town. And lastly, Mr. President, I would like to take a moment.
Last few seconds, John.
Time?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to come up?
Al Lacerda, Laurel Street. Mr. President, I appreciate the comments that you made earlier. I'm not a big talker. You never see me get up on the mic and speak, mostly because I do a lot of listening. I listen to what people have to say. I listen to what they're passionate about, what they care about, their complaints, their issues, their problems. One of the things that I will say is 3 years ago, we started our nonprofit. We started Fire for Effect Foundation 3 years ago. The reason that we did that was because we recognized the need to try to give the town some kind of identity, right? On the level of the council and the town, you're working out how do you bring people to town, how do you maneuver buildings, how do you bring businesses in. That's way over my head. I can't really offer much to that, and that's not my role here. But to get people to come to the town, to give the town a certain identity, a positive, one that people look positively on the town about, right? We don't have a lot going on. We have events in town, but they're, throughout the year, there's nothing that brings people here. Like it or not, people usually drive through Bridgewater to get somewhere else, or they leave Bridgewater to go and do something. So one of the things that I recognized was that we needed to find a way to bring people to the town, to showcase the town, to highlight the town, to tell people what we have here. We have brilliant people in this town, very talented people. We have awesome businesses, and people are wanting to get out and work together. And I think if we're going to find a path forward in this town, it has to be all of us walking on the same path. Everybody going in the same direction is not going to get us anywhere. So we're looking forward to creating more events. We created the Bridgewater Farmers Market and Craft Fair. I'm shocked at the amount of attention that it's getting, but it shows people want things to do in the town. They want to come together and celebrate themselves, and celebrate other businesses and get together, and not in a situation where it's politics or fighting or arguing. Just have stuff to do. Bring your family to places, right? So we created that. We're hopeful that we're starting something that's going to continue to carry on and get better and better. First Responder Day was something that we created. And that was, eventually, that was something that was passed as a law in Bridgewater. We're the only town that does that. And that has had a massive effect in the positive direction. So we're looking now to start getting together with other organizations, other youth groups. We've already started working with Music Alley. We've already started working with the 4th of July Committee. I'm working right now with the Lions, and not just one faction of the Lions, but all of the Lions. And we're going to have a Lions Day at the launch. And we welcome anybody else to join us and reach out to us and find out how we can help each other and how we can help you. Thank you.
Thank you, Al. Anyone else like to come up and speak?
Mr. President, members of the council, residents in attendance, good evening. I'm not going to retread what I sent to you and to the town manager and several other members of the town government a couple of weeks ago, but I will state this. First off, Michaela Spigone, 5 Lakeshore Center, Unit 1128, former member of the Bridgewater Planning Board. I come to you today to express my concern that processes need to be honed and refined when it comes to finding candidates to be placed on boards, committees, and commissions. The circumstances of which I have spoken to you about and let you know about greatly concern me as to how certain folks are chosen. Next year is going to be my 20th year of service to this community in one manner or another. I started on the Master Plan Committee as just a clerk member. I am now chairwoman of the Finance Committee. I worked for the town manager's office, and for the last 3 years, I was on the planning board as an associate member. I greatly appreciated my time working on all those positions and still continue to do the Finance Committee position. But last week was the breaking point for the planning board, and I resigned mid-meeting. I believe it is time to consider how the processes work for appointing people to boards, committees, and commissions. Because I can tell you right now, Mr. President, and to folks at home right now, and they can even ask for the letter I sent to you as a public records request, I will not be used as a tool for political gain from anybody in town government, whether they be a colleague of mine or someone else in the community. I was insulted by it, and I believe anybody else would be offended by it. So I will leave you with this, Mr. President. Find a way to fix the process, and if you need to update the charter, please do so. It will give clarity and certainty to all who are interested in serving our great community. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, MJ. Would anyone else like to come up?
Greg Martin, High Street. Mr. President, thank you for the endorsement for the Memorial Day event. Just to provide some more details on the event, it will be on Monday, Memorial Day itself, as it always is. The parade participants will be staging on Perkins Street, down by the railroad, going towards the railroad tracks. It's a short parade route coming out of Perkins Street up to the Common, where we will converge on the Common, and we will have a brief ceremony. It'll all be done by noontime, and we'll raise the flag back up to full staff. We'll have the flag at half staff from sunrise till noontime, as is the protocol for Memorial Day. So hope to see you all out there. It's going to be a great day, great event. I haven't looked at the weather that far out yet, but rain or shine. So come and join us, please. And congratulations, by the way, President Loretti. You're always smiling, but your smile is a little bit bigger today. So it's great news. Congratulations. Thank you.
Mr. President, could I ask, before he leaves, what time the parade starts?
Oh, geez. So staging at 10, parade kicks off at 10:30. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, the weather forecast is 70 and clear.
Awesome. Looking forward to a great day.
Have a good day.
Okay. Would anyone else like to come up and speak?
John Sylvia, 90 Haywood Place. Just a comment on a apartment complex that's being proposed downtown. It just doesn't have enough parking, and it's been ongoing for a while now, this proposal. And that's all I want to let people know about. Is it's out there, and I don't know if people have been paying attention to it. It's being squeezed into a very small area, and they don't have enough parking. And the lastly is you have a town employee that I've seen and heard on other boards that pressures the boards and shouldn't really be doing that. So I just want to let you know that. It's not right. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Ashley Mallard, 270 Grange Park. I just wanted to thank the town manager. I know you guys put in a lot of effort for the override information and package on the front page. I don't know if it's possible, but can the website be manipulated by cell phones? Because when I know this is something people are talking about, but when you can't do the calculation, you can't use the tax calculator on a cell phone. It just, I don't know who has the power to update it, but if it's possible, not blaming, I could not, I would have to defer to someone else. But that's just something I know at this day and age, there's a lot of people who don't even carry, like my mom doesn't have a computer at home, right? She'll only look stuff up on her cell phone, which is better than the computer we had in the 80s, for sure. So if that's possible, that even in general, our website could become more cell phone friendly would be a step in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. And would anybody else like to come up and speak? Okay, we will move on, and there is a citizen comment period at the end of the meeting if you would like to come up and speak then. We do not have any appointments, so we will move on to hearings, and our first one is petition 2025-021, petition for National Grid and Verizon New England, Inc. This is for poll locations on Pleasant Street. This hearing has been duly advertised in the May 9th, 2025 Enterprise, and abutter letters have been sent out. I'm going to open the public hearing at this time. It is 7:19, and the petitioner would like to speak on your behalf.
Hi, so I'm Jared Aker, representing National Grid at 100 East Ashland Street in Brockton. Looking for a pole install to install a recloser. It's just a device to help make the system more reliable, safe, efficient. That's pretty much it for this one.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the public that would like to come up and speak? Seeing none. Are there anybody from the public like to come up and speak in favor? Seeing none. Would anyone from the public like to speak in opposition? And seeing none, I'll open it up to councilors if they have any questions for the petitioner. Seeing none, so I'm going to close the hearing. That took 1 minute. It is now 7:20 p.m. And I'll ask for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilor Striggles and Councilor Ellenberg. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to the next hearing, petition P25-022, petition for National Grid and Verizon. This is for a pole location on South Street. Sorry, that was for before. This hearing has been duly advertised in the May 9th, 2025 Enterprise, and abutter letters have been sent out. I am going to open the hearing now at 7:21. And petitioner, again, if you'd like to speak to this, it looks like it's similar, but just a different location.
Same exact thing, different location.
Great. Okay. Anybody from the public would like to speak? Would anyone like to speak in favor? Would anyone in the public like to speak in opposition? And do any counselors have any comments or questions for petitioner?
Do you know if these are above ground wires or below?
This whole area is above ground, and this is just going to be a device attached to the pole. Nothing's going underground right now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from counselors? Okay, we will close the hearing. It is 7:22 p.m., and I'll ask for a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Striggles and Councilor Lindy. I'm going to have a vote for approval. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, and all those opposed? None. Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Okay, next hearing, P25-023, the granting of a modification to an existing flammable and combustible liquids license. This is at 630 Elm Street. This hearing has been duly advertised in the May 9th, 2025 Enterprise, and abutter letters have been sent out. It is now 7:22, and I will open the hearing. And petitioner, if you would like to speak upon this.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for having us tonight. My name is Jeffrey Tufts. I'm the propane operations manager for Devaney Energy. You might be aware that we have a facility on Elm Street right next to FW Webb, would be between Webb and Lucini's. We fit right in there. The original design of the plant made room for another tank, and we've gone to the planning board and got their approval on the site plan, the changed site plan, and we now need your endorsement in order to increase the gallonage that is stored there. We have actually there's 90,000 gallons of storage there right now, plus the residual, the smaller tanks, and every tank in the yard has to be considered as a storage, even though there's nothing in it, but it could have something in it. So that's why I think our storage right now is 120. The tank that we're looking to propose would be 120,000, would make it 120,000 in storage, but we still need that extra tetratory storage of the tanks around. So we noticed that obviously we had a cold winter this year, and we have grown to the point that when we have a normal winter, what we would call it, we need to have a little more backup to get by. So.
Okay, thank you. Would anyone from the public like to speak and comment? Seeing none. Anyone from the public would like to speak in favor? Seeing none. Anyone from the public wishes to speak in opposition? Seeing none. Councilors, any questions or comments for petitioner?
Thank you, Mr. President. I see that the fire department has oversight authority, and they approved it, so on that, I feel confident approving it then.
Thank you. Any other councilors have any questions or comments?
Just a comment. I drove by the facility just to take a look at what you guys have out there, and it's immaculate. You guys do a great job keeping the place clean and everything, so I was really happy to see that, so thank you.
Thank you. My boss takes a lot of pride in how his facility looks, so thank you.
Great. Any other comments or questions? Okay. I will then close the hearing at 7:25 p.m. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Councilor Striggles?
Second.
And second by Councilor Kennedy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And motion carries. Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you for your consideration. Thank you.
Okay, moving on. We do not have any licensed transactions. We'll then move on to presentations. We have an audit presentation tonight by Mr. Tony Rosselli and Paul Gargano from Rosselli and Clark. And we look forward to your presentation on the audit. Oh, would you like to introduce the...
You've done a good
Sorry.
job. I just wanted to let you know that Mr. Rosselli unfortunately had something come up tonight. He's not able to join us, but Paul will do an excellent job of going over all of Bridgewater's information, answering your questions. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you. Again, I'm Paul Gargano with Rosselli, Clark & Associates. I've been a partner for about 7 years. I'm going to go through an introduction of kind of how we conduct the audit, what we do as part of our process. Then I'll touch on some economic trends. Then we'll touch on the two biggest liabilities of the town, the OPEB liability and the pension liability. And then I'll finish up with some informational items and some general findings and recommendations. And if any time anyone has any questions while I'm going, please stop me, or we can wait to the end and take any question you may have. So what is an audit? So we are performing a financial statement audit for the purpose of issuing an audit opinion that your financial statements are materially stated. It's not a forensic or a fraud audit. It's not designed to detect fraud, although our auditing standards require us to perform certain procedures such as inquiries of staff and management and tests of certain transactions that are designed to potentially address fraud. But it's only as part of our audit standard. It is not a main focus of the audit, or, like, as I said, our audit is not designed to detect fraud. It's performed in accordance with GAGAS, which is Generally Accepted Government Auditing Standards, also known as the Yellow Book, that's issued by the OMB in Washington. That requires us to review internal control over compliance over major transaction classes. So that would be cash receipts, payroll, and vendor disbursements. It also requires us to do risk assessments in all areas of the finances and perform enhanced procedures in any area we identify as being a material area. Since you spent over $750,000 of federal awards, we also performed a single audit in accordance with the Uniform Guidance. The Uniform Guidance is also issued by the OMB in Washington. And I'm happy to report there was a clean opinion on your financial statements. All right, we'll start with some economic trends. This is the trend of your reserve balance. So this would be your unassigned fund balance in the general fund, which includes any stabilization reserves as well. As you can see, coming out of the great financial crisis, you had actually two negative reserve years in 2009 and 2010, but in the 14 years since, it's been a steady climb, and this year it ended at about $13.2 million, which is the highest reserve balance that the town has ever had. We also like to talk about the reserves as a ratio. So the reserve ratio would be your reserves as a percentage of your general fund expenditures. So the high metric, which is what the bond rating agencies like to see for their top tier communities, would be 15% reserve ratio. The state average in Massachusetts is about 10%, and the low metric from the bond rating agencies is really 4%, which is really the minimal level. Yours ended up at 17.7%. At the end of the fiscal year. So you're above the high metric that the bond rating agencies like to see. So you are in that top tier with the level of reserves that you have. So some more trends. As in the last slide, the reserves continue to increase. They increased by $1.2 million during the year. How did we get there? Well, your local receipts exceeded your forecast by $2.3 million. That was largely due to motor vehicle excise and investment income coming in higher than budget. In addition, your departments returned $0.9 million of unused budgeted appropriations, and your use of free cash slightly offset these favorable outcomes, which led to the only $1.2 million increase in your reserves. Again, your metrics continue to exceed the state average, and you have been in that tier 1 for 5 consecutive years. Right now, you have your bond rating with Moody's only, and you have an AA3, which puts you as a high-grade issuer. One of your biggest liabilities on the books is your OPEB liability, which is your liability for providing health and other insurance benefits to retirees. It was required to be added to your financial statements from GASB 74 and 75 in 2017 and 2018. The estimated liability is approximately $39 million, which was actually $2 million better than the prior year. This was mainly due to an increase in an actuarial assumption, the discount rate that's used at 5.61%. And as well, you also added $110,000 from your free cash. There's currently $1.3 million set aside in the OPEB trust to pay for these future benefits, which represents about 3% funding. That is a low amount, but it is actually the state average. But again, we always recommend that cities and towns try to increase as much as possible that contribution into the fund and make a plan to slowly increase that over time, if possible. And again, another actuarial assumption here is your average age of employees currently is 49. Your other major liability is your pension liability. This was implemented about 10 years ago under GASB 68. So at June 30th, your proportionate share of the net pension liability was $42 million, which increased $8 million from the prior year. The largest reason for the increase appears to be covered payroll, but there was also an actuarial assumption change related to some mortality tables that also increased it as well. The funding of the liability is in control of Plymouth County Retirement, so you don't have as much local control over the assessments. The discount rate that's used in the calculation of that liability is 7.875%, which is the highest in the state. So just for example, if you were to lower that discount rate by 1%, you would see a $15 million increase in that estimated liability. So that $42 million could potentially be a higher liability if those assumptions change over time. But you do sit at the system sits at a funded percentage of 64.1, which I believe is roughly the state average, maybe slightly below. Some informational items. Statement on auditing standards 114 and 115 requires us to communicate any deficiencies in internal control that we find during our audit. And there were no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies to report as part of our audit this year. Something we highlight every year, unfortunately, I don't think I'll ever be able to remove this from our presentations, is network security. Unfortunately, one or two of our clients every year gets hit with something. So we just continue to recommend people train their employees and be vigilant about all cyber attacks and continually monitor that, because that's an issue, obviously, that's not going away. Another item we always like to highlight is to review your internal processes for safeguarding assets, especially in cash handling areas. Those are usually the highest risk areas for any type of fraud or misappropriation. And finally, just one general recommendation. This year we noted that the tax title and foreclosure receivable balances in your general fund sit at about $1.9 million. That's over 50% of the receivables in the general fund. Now, it's not indicative of your collection procedures. The Treasurer's Office actually has adequate collection procedures. It's just over time, delinquents go into tax title, and sometimes it's hard to get them out. Some communities have looked into assigning those receivables. There are companies out there that will buy your tax title and foreclosures. You can pick through them. You don't have to, if there are certain ones you don't want to sell, you can do that. So it's something worthwhile to look into, because that's $1.9 million on your balance sheet that could free up and become part of your reserves. And that's it for my presentation. If anyone has any questions, I'd be glad to take them.
Thank you. A lot of counselors are interested in the work that you do, so I'll open it up to the counselors, and let's make sure that everybody has an opportunity to provide comments and questions on the audit and how this works. So I'll open the floor if anyone would like to begin. Councilor Kennedy.
Good evening. Thank you for coming in and speaking with us. As a counselor, I've heard from the public also during my recent run, there's been talk of people wanting to look into a forensic audit for the town. So some of these questions primarily revolve around that. With what your firm provides, what is the difference between that annual and a full forensic audit? What is the difference between kind of the overview that you guys are providing and if somebody were to come in and provide a forensic audit, what would be like the main points of difference there?
Well, again, so we're mainly concerned with the financial statement. So again, we're liabilities, assets, making sure you're properly stated so the bond rating agencies and your investors can really look and make sure, you have a healthy financial position, among others. When you talk about forensic audit, it's kind of that's a very broad statement. It could be, you could be talking an audit of just a single department or an area within a department, or if you're talking a broad forensic audit of the town, that is just, that's way too broad, and I think any firm coming in here, would tell you that. Typically, a forensic audit would be guided by the town and what you truly want that firm to look at. Again, I would not recommend doing a broad forensic audit. That just would probably be cost prohibitive. If you had certain areas of risk that you thought made sense for a forensic audit to be performed on, then possibly it would make more sense. And a firm would come in here and they would look at whatever transactions you think were high risk, or if there was if there was anything in particular that you wanted looked at.
Sure. Are those services something that you provide, or is that something that the town would look at going with a different?
We do not provide that services. Right now, there's been a lot of change in the municipal industry over the last 5 years. There's several firms merged in with another firm who merged in with another firm. So now there's just less of us out there doing this work. And honestly, we personally can't do any of it. And I've heard even some of the other firms in the state are having trouble keeping up with certain, other requests like this. So you'd probably end up looking potentially even at a firm that's maybe doesn't even do municipalities, or maybe does them in another state.
Okay. What's the main difference between qualifications? Specialized training? Is there specialized training for forensic audits versus CPA, or is it more in depth? I know they're kind of CPAs as well, but
yes, I mean some firms out there do have CPAs that are also certified fraud examiners, and so there is an extra level of certification there.
I just got. Couple more, sorry. This is another topic that was discussed a lot. Can municipalities use a forensic audit proactively to strengthen the controls and deter problems before they surface? Or is it always something that you're chasing when a problem arises?
No, well, I wouldn't use a forensic audit for what you just described. That would be more of an internal audit function. I have clients that actually have an internal auditor. Usually they're larger cities. But in my presentation, we recommended going through and honing in on the cash handling, areas. So that, I would think for what you just described, you'd be much better off with trying to spend your money on an internal audit function. Okay. And even potentially, listen, you can have instead of a forensic audit, someone come in and do a risk assessment. That could be a risk assessment on all town departments, let's say. That could be the first step in identifying something that maybe you want to look at a little more in depth. And as part of that risk assessment, they would come up with areas and recommendations for improvements. And
okay, so that would be recommending internal controls and things of that nature. Okay. And this is just another question that I got, and this will be my last one, so I appreciate your time. Thank you. Has the town gone through a forensic audit at any point that you're aware of?
Has Bridgewater gone through a forensic audit? Not to my knowledge. You know, maybe 10, 15 years ago when we started, there was certain, I know a couple of different things popped up, and then we were asked to go in. I know the transfer station we looked at in depth one time. Building permits was another, and so you know, we have done some in-depth reviews, but not a forensic audit.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Proceed.
If we could just kind of go down the line. Councilor Ellerberg, do you have any questions?
Yes. About how much would a forensic audit cost, let's say if there was 3 or 4 areas?
You know, it's hard to say. If you picked, say, one department, I mean, it could be anywhere between, depending on the department size, you know, $50,000 to, you know, $200,000. You know, and again, it depends what you want to look at. I mean, you know, police and fire, you know, sometimes with, police, you see, you know, they have to bring in the state police to look at some of these transactions, because honestly, their payroll can get so complex that you want an expert in there. So it really depends on what you're looking for. I mean, it can, you know, again, the broader you go, the more expensive it's going to be.
Would you be reviewing contracts that the town has entered into already?
Yep, that could be part of a forensic audit.
Okay.
That would definitely be an area where you'd look at.
Okay. Are you aware that recommended is the start with an audit committee?
Yes.
Yes, and do you recommend that's the way we proceed?
Is there, yeah, so you absolutely should have an audit committee, and then, yes, that would, I mean, I would think if you were going to go further, that's where it would start, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. I reviewed our past audits, and I haven't seen any improprieties, and I appreciate the presentation, and I have no questions for you, but thank you for your time.
Okay.
Thank you for comment. I have one question. Where it says local receipts exceed forecast by 2.3 million, it's the excise tax and the investment income. What are we investing in?
Honestly, your limit, that investment income is primarily general fund investment income. So you are actually limited in what you can invest in. Your trust funds, you can get into equities and fixed income mutual funds and things like that. So for the most part, you're talking about high interest accounts, CDs, you do have some treasuries, but the riskiest you can get involved in when you're talking about general fund monies would be treasuries, 1 to 2 year treasuries tops.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Murphy, you just go around the line.
Thank you for your presentation. I just have a few high-level questions for you. Can you give us a rough estimate of how many towns you work with in Massachusetts?
How many towns?
Yeah, roughly.
It's between 20 and 25% of the towns in Massachusetts right now.
All through your firm? That's just...
Yes, that's our firm, correct.
Ms. Robinson, can you confirm the total amount we pay the firm for the audit?
I want to say about $50,000, but I don't recall off the top of my head what the contract says. A year?
It's under that, I believe.
Somewhere between 40 and 50, probably.
45-ish.
Yeah. It's in the annual budget. I don't have it in front of me.
And I have one specific question for you on the post-employment benefits. Well, let me back up, maybe 2 questions. The OPED number, you said we were about state average, but obviously this is a huge liability on the books with 42 million. Do you know roughly what our contribution is in comparison to other towns? You had mentioned that we made a high contribution over the last year to the OPED liability. How do we stack up with other towns, I guess, in that sense?
Yeah, I mean, again, I would just about average. That's, I have several clients who are putting in $1 million a year. Towns similar size to Bridgewater. Again, you're still the average, so those aren't the standard by any means, but I would say, you know,
Clearly a bigger issue, right?
yeah, yes.
Amongst all towns.
It is. And obviously with the mandatory funding of the pension liabilities, many communities are already targeting, okay, when, you know, another 10 years when the pension liability gets fully funded, then shifting that over to the OPEB.
Excellent. Have you seen any other trends like that? I mean, that you've seen other towns do to address that piece? Or is that the leading one that you just mentioned?
That's the leading one. And honestly, there aren't too many communities right now that have a fully funded pension system. So that's more of, you know, the next 5 years or so. But then we have, you know, obviously it's mandated by 2040. There may be some systems in this state that can't make 2040.
Sure.
So who knows? That 2040 may be kicked down the road at some point too. Who knows?
Absolutely. Last question for you. On the post-employment benefit slide, you had an increase in discount rate to 5.61. Could you just talk a little bit about what that is?
The discount rate, your actuary would be much better at this than I would. So the discount rate is the rate that's being applied to the amount in your trust fund, and as it grows, it's also getting applied to the costs over the time that the actuary is measuring the liability. It's usually a function of the current expected investment rate, and I think it's the risk-free rate, which is like a municipal bond rate, but that's as good of an explanation as I can give you.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
No questions here.
I just want to thank you for your presentation. I don't have questions because I'm kind of the last in line.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. You mentioned that the average age of employees is 49. What is the average retirement age, just so we could kind of project out when we would expect to want to be prepared for this?
Honestly, I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
I'd say it depends on the situation. Generally, your police and fire employees will be a little on the younger side. Other employees, especially as the mandatory number of retirement age is 60 and 10 years of service for a pension, has gotten a little higher. There's that balance. But the state law require that once you've accepted the sections of the law that provide post-employment health insurance, you can't take it back, you can't change it. And as health insurance gets more expensive each year and employees live longer, that's part of what goes into the actuary's analysis, as well as what you're able to put into it. But I think information I've seen is exactly what Mr. Gargano suggested, was that Bridgewater's long-term plan was when the pension is fully funded and we don't have that liability, we can shift to the OPEB fund. But right now, we're carrying all of the costs of retirees and current employees in our operating budget. But sooner or later, that tipping point is you replace one employee retires with a new employee, you then have two people you're carrying, and so it just gets bigger, and that's why the fund is in place.
Makes sense. Okay, well, thank you very much. That was very helpful.
All right, thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. So we will now move on to Town Manager's report. I'll send it back to Town Manager Robinson. Mr. Rulli.
Good evening. First of all, I'd like to congratulate Mr. Kennedy and Mrs. Hunt for joining the council. Mrs. Hunt has worked with me previously. Mr. Kennedy has not had the privilege or experience. Be polite. Then congratulations to you, Ms. Loretti. I remember when my daughter was born, it was the happiest moment of my life. Then she became 11 years old, and I became a human ATM machine to her. Then she became 13 years old, and I couldn't be seen with her. So enjoy this time. That's all I have to say to you. So congratulations. So first of all, I want to start with the fire station update. We continue to be a little bit ahead of schedule and under budget. If you look at the PCO log, there are some outstanding large number items on winter conditions. So initially, before I was involved in the project, this project went to bid and contracts were signed, and then there was a delay of almost 6 months, so the schedule was thrown off. We are meeting later this week. I've asked our CHA to kind of map out, if we had started on time, where would we be in winter conditions, because this project wasn't going to be completed in 6 months. So we do expect that there's going to be some reduction in what those numbers are. I don't know exactly what those are, but the expectation is they would have been doing work in the winter regardless of when they started. But other than that, everything is tracking. If you've been by there, I mean, the progress is outstanding. The weather was our friend despite winter conditions. Most of that was related to having to heat because we were pouring concrete and spraying walls, but we've bought out most of the projects, so we don't have any supply chain issues. We don't have any cost increases. We always have some change orders that come through, but all in all, we're monitoring this, and I think we're in really good shape that we're probably going to end up with some kind of balance in the contingency at the end of the project. Still looking at end of fourth quarter 2025, first quarter 2026 for occupancy, but that can still all change. I'm happy to answer any questions anyone has on that.
I have them. Mr. Ridley, thank you for the update. I think that was a really good update that you provided. Just a question on the change order. I see that one was rejected, modification of fireproofing zone. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, I mean, there are certain things that the general contractor will put forward. Then we have weekly meetings on Wednesdays with everyone. Then we have meetings on Mondays with the architect and CHA and the town as the owner. Some are unreasonable. We don't think they're necessary. We get some change orders that come internally through the town through IT. They come at a later time, as an example. If we've already poured a floor, we're not going to cut a hole in a floor to try to run conduit. So the contractor is always going to try to put something forward based on what their subcontractors are telling them, but I'm incredibly responsible. I think it's my fiduciary responsibility for the town to make sure that we're not spending money unreasonably. I'm probably not getting any fruit baskets from M. O'Connor or any of these subcontractors at the end of the year. I see that as a good thing.
Thank you. I think that's it.
Great. Any other counselors have questions for Mr. Ridley? Okay.
Moving on to the Summer Street Park update. I hopefully you all got something in your package. We're looking at the Summer Street Park to be more than just the Summer Street Park. We spent a lot of time at the end of last year, first quarter of this year, looking at Central Square traffic and pedestrian improvements. We've been working very closely with Bridgewater State University. So we've identified a number of projects that we can do in the short term, in the next year, that we want to focus on. One of the takeaways from the Central Square conversation was, the potential to add a roundabout at the intersection of Broad Street, Main Street, and Central Square and Summer Street. Realistically, we are not going to see any federal money coming our way for any kind of highway improvements in the next 3 years. So we've kind of pivoted. We have another $150,000 coming through the governor's economic development bill to look at Central Square. We're trying to repurpose that money to look at, let's improve the sidewalks on both sides of Summer Street from Central Square down to the intersection of Plymouth Street. We've received $500,000 to do the gas station project from the state. There's a commitment for another $100,000 from Bridgewater State towards that project. We've included in this package what the initial design of the building looks like. There's been work done in terms of what the landscaping for that project could be. We've just closed out a Complete Streets grant from completing the Main Street sidewalk improvements. We are looking at a complete street grant for improving the pedestrian crossings at the intersection of Plymouth and Summer Street. Ongoing is a shared street project in partnership with the university and the town for sidewalks on School Street. You know, we're recommending that we look at making School Street two-way traffic. We're continuing to look at the introduction of parallel parking in the Central Square area. And then also looking ahead, anticipating that when the fire station project is completed, the existing fire station building will be torn down. There'll be some environmental remediation that has to happen. Looking at the old town hall, there's going to be an elevator that needs to be added that would encroach onto the existing fire station, but also looking to see how do we better utilize that town parking lot that we have now that's completely underutilized in partnership with the university and state higher education for funding to do a two-tier parking ramp. So we're looking at all of these things cohesively right now. June 11th, we're doing a community open house just to discuss these. But in terms of the Summer Street gas station, we have the designs for the building. They're not final, but that's what we need to submit to the state by June 1st. We have a signed contract with HGA as the architect. We need to have this entire project completed by July 1st, 2026. So our next step would be to go out to get bid documents for the improvements to both the building and the landscape improvements. We're working with Melissa Deschardins, who had done the original landscape plan. There is the opportunity to work with Flora Little Park in terms of incorporating that into this project. We've had some conversations, haven't heard back in terms of where that is, but regardless of whether that's part of this or not, we have to move forward with the gas station site. So, I mean, the idea is to use that building. The university really looks at that to be more of a gateway or welcoming center than the welcoming center that they have now, just because of the visibility. So, you know, we want to engage the public in this process, but at the same time, we want to be vigilant about the fact that we're on a pretty short timeline. So, I mean, I think it's important, you know, I did kind of the summary in the beginning, but all of the activities that we've done in Central Square, including the gas station, we've raised about $1.3 million. That's not coming out of any budget in the town of Bridgewater. That is all state money. So we've been very effective on that. We're still looking for additional money, but we look at these to be short-term wins. They're all consistent with what vision and reality is. I show the flow chart. I've shown that in the beginning. I've highlighted 3 of those in yellow, how these tie into what we're doing. I mean, I think we're in a really good position right now to make some changes. We are anticipating that we're going to get $30,000 from the state for a consultant to come in to help us with wayfaring signs in the downtown area, signage. There are people that drive through town. I mean, I heard it before. People drive through town. They don't stop in town, that don't know there's a university 300 feet from here. So, I mean, we want to make sure that we continue to strengthen that relationship with Bridgewater State. But I'm excited as to some of the energy that we've created around some of these projects right now. So happy to answer any questions that you have, but just to give you an update on where we are.
Thank you. Councilors, questions?
A few questions. Thank you again, Mr. Rulli. I know that a lot of folks talk about the crosswalks downtown, and I know you mentioned sidewalk improvements. Are those getting addressed, or would those be in the initial phase to get addressed?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think that's something that came out of the initial phase 1 of Pathways to Progress, is what we called it. I mean, it's an Olympic sport trying to cross the street. So, I mean, that's through Complete Streets and through niche engineering, who we have on, looking at how can we improve the sidewalks. I mean, as an example, none of the sidewalks on either side of Summer Street from Central Square down to the location of the park, none of those are ADA compliant. Some of them may never be because of the slope, but just the condition of them right now does not create that pedestrian-friendly experience. So eliminating some of the crosswalks, I think, is something that we're looking at. You know, I think I mentioned this previously. Old Colony Planning Council is completing a Route 104 corridor study. We had the Route 18 corridor study done, so we're going to take a lot of that information, but eliminating some of these crosswalks is going to be important. You know, the slips exit by the gas station might need to be eliminated. Another reason that, you know, I'm holding off on looking at the roundabout is that I don't have a crystal ball, but, you know, if I'm looking at businesses, Walgreens is a business that's in trouble. They're closing a lot of their stores. I think that site potentially could come into play as a development site in the future. That might impact how we look at that intersection again. So rather than spend money on a plan that we can't implement for the next 4 or 5 years, I think trying to reallocate some of those funds. Summer Street's going to be difficult to look at sidewalks because we're not really going to be able to encroach too much into Summer Street. And then, you know, we're going to have to look at what the widths are, whether or not we're going to have to do takings in certain areas. But, you know, we have a lot of historical assets in that area, Flora Little Park, the cemetery, the botanical garden at the university. So, I mean, we're trying to really reinforce that this is a walkable community. We have a lot of amenities. You know, if people could park in the town lot and realize that they could walk to some of these places in 2 or 3 minutes, but the perception is that they can't do that now.
Just a couple more follow-ups, if I could. Just asking about the gas station, Summer Street Park, whatever we're entitling it. It sounds like BSU is interested in, or has been even interested in giving donation time to maintain it. They have interest in it, is what you kind of said, right?
Well, they've made a financial commitment as well as potentially, you know, they will never own it. We own it.
Right.
But I mean, curating it, managing, that's all something that, you know, is a discussion.
Right, because adding a beautiful space like this, I would say that the town is in need of. It offers, you know, great opportunity for small events, get-togethers, in addition to the town landing that's already been flourishing. But with that comes maintenance and upkeep, and, you know, the incredible renderings that we see here will require a lot of upkeep that goes with that. And as part of the override, something we talked about is as we add these parks and spaces, it's important to maintain them and keep up with them, correct? And how we want this to look 10 years from now will depend on proper staffing and maintenance of these areas.
I mean, my conversations with the university, non-binding, are if we do this, you will do this.
Right.
You will be the curators. You will maintain it. And the same is true for Flora Little Park. If they were going to come in and do trash or lawn at the gas station site, could they go right next door? So, I mean, again, I think that decision doesn't need to be made now. We need to look at stormwater is the biggest impact in that area. We need to mitigate the stormwater on our own site, but the opportunity to include Flora Little Park is, I think, advantageous to everyone, but we have to proceed regardless if that's part of it now. But, I mean, our goal is to, no different than with the old town hall, the conversations we've had with the university is potentially they would be responsible for curating and managing activities there. That's down the road, but, I mean, they're really looking to solidify that partnership.
Yeah, I guess my only concern with that, and you probably already addressed this or keep that in the back of your mind, but their utilization of town space and how we benefit. If a one-time gift, you know, is up front, and then every time they turn around and want to have an event there, does that take away from the people of the town?
I think that's an agreement that has to be negotiated. I mean, you know, it's at the end of the day, it's a town-owned asset.
We know that the state already has enough land in Bridgewater that they don't properly pay us back for, right? That's my opinion, not the opinion of the council. But so I wouldn't want to open that up. But I do think this is a great opportunity, and I appreciate the partnership with BSC there because I think a lot of positive things could happen.
Thank you. Other councilors?
I would echo Mr. Murphy's opinion as mine as well. Before the meeting on June 11th, the thing, I'd love to see if we could get together possibly CED and maybe downtown revitalization together to go over what's going to come forward at June 11th.
Happy to do that, absolutely. I mean,
okay.
The idea on the 11th is it's an open house. You know, here are some concept plans. Here, you know, we left you with talking about a roundabout. we're kind of pivoting from that. But here are all the projects that we have in the Central Square area that we think we can address in the next 12 to 18 months, and just so people are up to speed on that. But more than happy to, meet with any of the subcommittees to brief you. But there's not going to be any formal presentations. There's going to be a series of boards, and just to have conversations with the public.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I want to also echo Councilor Murphy's concern with BSU's usage of the property itself. A one-time payment is great if they're going to do regular maintenance and upkeep, and we're going to rely on BSU to do that. That may bring some concerns down the line, so I'd like some clarification at some point as to what the plan actually is going to be when we get there. I know we might not be there at the moment, but I do want to ensure that the town is able to have the upkeep and can keep it so we can use it, because that's ultimately what we're looking to do here. When it comes to the walkability in the downtown, I'm going to get this question asked to me once I leave here. So the walkability to the mobile station is obviously very tough right now. There's a lack of crosswalks to get over there. And then the parking lot being considered to be fixed, considering the municipal parking lot to upgrade it or change it so it actually functions better as a parking lot, because right now that is a mess. Are there any plans to, if you're going to link the center to the mobile station, we want to also ensure that people that come visit are also spending money in the center of town. So is there anything more immediate for the crosswalks in the center that are being addressed?
I think they're part and parcel. I mean, I think that business downtown, or the lack of business downtown, is not a result of the crosswalks. I think some of it is a result of the quality of the buildings and what owners are contributing. You may not know this, I was a student here from 1977 to 1981. We never hesitated to walk downtown. There was a hardware store, there was a camera store, there was a record store. Suddenly something happened, or nothing happened, I guess, is more appropriate. So I think the type of traffic that we have that comes through town has impacted the pedestrian experience. Our thought is that, if we go to parallel parking, which we discussed as part of Pathways to Progress on both sides of Central Square, eliminate diagonal parking, that creates a better pedestrian experience. But, early on, I did a slide. I think there's 14 crosswalks in the Central Square area. It's crazy. We are definitely looking at that. I think it's going to be tied into what is the answer to the sidewalks on Summer Street, eliminating that slip lane by the gas station. Just those two things are going to make a difference. But, when we look at the placement of some of the crosswalks, as an example where the bank was, there's a crosswalk there. Well, people are just coming out of the traffic light, picking up speed, and there's a crosswalk there. That makes no sense. I think it's, in the past, the town has eliminated some crosswalks in the Central Square area. I think it's just thinking logically in terms of where things are. Do we need to do more signalization? Those are things we're going to look at. But again, I think the perception is that this is not a walkable community, and it very much is a walkable community. Parking is something that I talk about a lot. People are like, we have a parking problem. No, you don't have a parking problem. We have a parking management problem. Private, on-street, public, semi-public, we have over 800 parking spaces in the Central Square area. I guarantee you that on a good day, we're at 45% full. So, it's just managing it. When we talk about signage, you've got an MBTA sign saying there's a commuter station somewhere. That sign is like 20 years old and faded. People don't even see it. People don't even know there's parking behind the gas station. So those are all things that can increase the pedestrian experience. We've had some hearings with the planning board. People are like, people aren't going to walk. And I use the analogy, if any of you are of a certain age, you went to a mall at some point in your life. You walked much farther than across Central Square just to get into the mall. And then when you were in the mall, you probably did 2 or 3 laps. So, it's just, again, it's a perception thing that we just have to make it feel better. But, we're completely focused on that.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rowley.
Any other councilors?
Yes, thank you. Would it be appropriate to slow the speed down around the common to like 10 miles or 15 miles an hour to make it more walkable? Or can we not do that being a public highway?
Well, first of all, these are not state roads in the downtown area. The
Okay.
state road begins at the entrance to Town Hall going towards Middleborough, and then it becomes a state road just past where the former Napa is on Broad Street. Same thing so I mean, we have the ability to slow traffic down. To your point, I mean, there are all kinds of animations that show that when traffic is at a slower speed, it moves more efficiently, but it becomes an enforcement issue. So the configuration of what Central Square is now is, is that car going to go this way because they don't put the signal on, or are they going to go left? Then people are, so we think that having two-way traffic on either side with parallel parking is going to help the problem. But it becomes an enforcement issue, and I can't speak for the police in terms of enforcing speed.
Question, you want two-way traffic on both sides of the common?
That's what we had talked about, and that's what the community had seen when we did the two workshops on Pathways to Progress.
Okay, and I'm concerned that if we still kept one way around the common, that you would have two lanes going against pedestrians, so that would not be good.
It's not good for pedestrians crossing on Central Square now because they're coming out from behind diagonal parking. So by the time they get out there, they are auditioning to be a hood ornament. I mean, because they're putting their head out and no one sees them. So, I mean, there's not an easy solution. It's something that has been suggested by the engineers to be a better solution. It's going to require conversations with police and fire.
And returning to signage issues, which could help monitor all of this sort of thing, how much do you think all the signs we need to show BSU, to show the parking, to show the speed limit of maybe 15 miles an hour, all of that, what would a cost of that be?
I don't have an estimate of that, but as I said, I mean, we had filed an application through the state for a one-stop grant for technical downtown assistance. That got the initial approval. We met with the state yesterday. They're very supportive of what we're doing, so what they're suggesting is they're going to allocate $30,000 for them to bring on a consultant to work with us to develop that budget, but more importantly, to have that community engagement in that conversation about what the signage should be. Is there a theme that we want to have?
Thank you.
Do any other counselors have questions for Mr. Rulli?
Thank you, Mr. President. Hi, Mr. Rulli. I have a couple. I like your pictures. I mean, I like both of them. I see that you don't have specific parking lines, so that way the food trucks can also come, which I really like, that we'd be supporting small businesses. The only thing I see is who's going to coordinate that? When the food trucks will come, and what if people are parking there when the trucks come?
Yeah, I mean, that's something we've got to work out. The only on-site required parking we have to have is some ADA compliant parking. We need to add bathrooms there that are ADA compliant, but there are a lot of operational issues that still need to be worked out, which we hope to do over the next year. Right now, we're under the time limit that we have a small window to get the design package to the state to show what we are going to get reimbursed. That has to be in by June 1st. We're prepared to do that. But in terms of, are we going to have one big pergola or are we going to have two small ones? I think we need to see what the construction numbers come back at. Those are all things we can add in later. But, one of the challenges we have at that site is that, where you see those food trucks lining up is adjacent to a driveway to a residential structure to the rear. So we have to be
I mean, it would be keep the kids safe. You know what I mean? Especially if you have an ice cream truck
Yeah,
there.
there's a number of operational issues that we need to work out. I mean, there's not a lot of vehicular traffic on a daily basis that's going back to that housing, but we have to be, for fire and safety, we need to make sure that that area is clear, but it is a private right-of-way.
So the mobile station will turn into restrooms?
Well, you have to have restrooms. I mean, because it's a public park and the way we're funding, so we definitely have to have 2 ADA-compliant bathrooms.
So that would be another area that we have to clean up.
Well, I mean, again, that's something that we're going to discuss, in terms of what the relationship with BSU is, in terms of, we have to put time locks on those. We can't have those open 24/7, I mean, from a safety perspective. So right now, our first goal was, let's get the design done. Let's move forward and get construction drawings done. Because again, we have to have this project done in order to get the money by next July 1st.
So will the park close at a certain time?
I think that it would. I mean, people can sit at a picnic table there anytime they want, but the
I'm
bathrooms...
just thinking of partying and, another area that the police have to
I mean,
come.
the building itself would have to be locked at a certain time.
Okay.
The bathrooms would have to be locked at a certain time.
All right. Otherwise, I think it's a great idea, and I'd like to see the food trucks there because I think they'd make a killing with the kids that get out of school, half days, and the college. So I think that's great. They came out really well, so thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Just a quick question, because I know our council president hasn't slept in 3 days. So if you could answer just quickly, I think what we're all thinking, is there opportunity for revenue here with the town, possible renting out or?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, I think all over the next year, all those operational conversations are going to happen. We're going to need to have in the short term a conversation as to, are we incorporating Flora Little Park or we're not? I mean, particularly as we design drainage and then some access points. I mean, if any of you have ever walked there, there's a pretty significant elevation change between those two sites, particularly as you get away from Plymouth Street. But, again, recognizing we want to make it accessible to people with disabilities, that's something we have to take into consideration. But, yeah, I think there is, I wouldn't say significant revenue, but some revenue for sure.
Yeah.
So if I could just have a minute, Bob. Spending 5 years on downtown revitalization from 2009 till 2014. I hope you've looked at the 2014 plan, because since you're changing how you're talking about traffic down there, that's exactly the plan that we had, was the two-way traffic on either side, and it was a really good plan, and I think it would have gone well. I go to movies up in Dedham, where the same company that did our plans did them and actually incorporated them in Dedham, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful for the small businesses. It's wonderful for pedestrians.
And we benefited because one of the principals that had worked on that original plan is now working with Niche.
Good. It was a really good plan. So
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and again, just like all things associated with Vision Reality, Vision Reality was just building on the comprehensive master plan, but also looking at those previous existing plans where there was no implementation.
Right. And as president of the BIA, the owners of the Flora T. Little Park, we're very interested. And as you know, we're working together with the university, and I've had a few other meetings with them talking about what's going on down there. So we'll be doing our best. We have to find money too. We're a private organization. We're not the town. So we'll be looking at that. But thanks for your presentation. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments, councilors? Everybody asked all of my questions, but I'm also interested and intrigued by potential sources of revenue of the park. But the renderings look fantastic, and I'm looking forward to the project moving forward. So thank you for the presentation.
Thank you, everyone.
And I believe Town Manager Robinson has an override education update.
Yes, so the website's been fully updated about the override. You'll find a very large button right on the front page to get to it, so I don't think it's hard to find. We've tried to populate it with a lot of details, not only the tax calculator, and thank you very much for pointing out that it isn't working quite right on a cell phone. I hadn't tried that myself. But you've got the tax impact. We did some frequently asked questions we thought people might want to ask. We've got the schedule of the meetings has been posted. We're going to have 3 very public meetings, one at the library, June 2nd, in the late afternoon, early evening, one at the senior center, the following Friday, the 6th in the morning, and then one at the high school on June 10th, where the superintendent, myself, finance director, and potentially some others will be available to give a short presentation to people and answer questions and help people get educated about the override, what it means, what it's for, how it impacts them. There's links to the BR School's own webpage to direct people for school information, the town's budget, just information about what an override is, and then the question and answer tool. We have gotten 4 questions so far, and the answers are all up there as of this afternoon as well. And as we continue to get more questions that people submit that way, we'll keep updating that every couple of days. And I just encourage people, please, if you've got a question, please ask us. We'd love to be able to answer it. We're going to be more heavily advertising those upcoming events, and hopefully people can find one that's convenient for them to come to and get questions answered. So,
thank you.
Happy to take any other questions from you.
Yeah, counselors questions from counselors.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Town Manager Robinson. I would echo what Mrs. Mallard said about the sentiment about the website. I met with 2 residents specifically about the override within the last week, and they're skeptics about the override. And I got them to a point where they at least were willing to continue on with a conversation, and I wanted to go to the next step of showing them what their tax implication would be. And the only device that I had was my phone.
Yep.
And I wasn't able to successfully do that. So I don't want it to become an impediment to our success and our ability to communicate effectively. So our IT department is fantastic. They got that website up very quickly. So my hope would be that they could tweak it so that there's at least a desktop version where it converts on the phone.
Oh, absolutely. I didn't know until tonight it didn't work because I hadn't thought to try it on my own phone. So, if people notice things like that, please point it out.
Questions or comments from other counselors?
Just a quick one. You went over the dates. Can you give me the times again? Library?
The one at the library is from 5 to 7 p.m.
Yeah.
The one at the Council on Aging Senior Center is at 10 a.m.
Okay.
And the one at the high school is from 6 to 8 p.m.
Thank you.
Through you, Mr. President, to Town Manager, I met with the new Director of Elder Service, Courtney, and one of the things she had brought up is the parking lot. And I had said that we had talked about that before. You were going to ask the DPW if they could just fill in those potholes or do something so somebody doesn't get hurt.
We're about to schedule a meeting for that, but it's probably much more complicated than filling in some potholes, is what I know at this point.
I had promised I'd bring it up again.
No, we're on it.
All right.
Any other questions from counselors? Oh, yeah. I will. I have an override question and then future questions. Is that okay? So a question from a few residents, and I don't know if you have the answers right now, but folks were asking in regard to the positions that we would either reinstate in town hall and then provide for the police and fire. If the override were not to pass, would we actually be firing anybody? Would people be laid off from their current positions, or these positions that we just had to, that we would be filling?
So the positions that we would hope to bring back are ones that were unfilled. So nobody is going to be laid off on the town side of the budget. The police firefighter, paramedic, the police cadet, the mechanic, the DPW highway position, those were all budgeted but not filled at the moment, so no positions would be lost. And of course, if the override fails, we wouldn't be hiring the positions we wanted to add.
Okay, thank you.
So are we moving on to questions?
Future questions.
I was contacted, as well as the town clerk's office, by a resident that lives on Goodwater Way. Apparently, 2 years ago, a car hit their street sign, and it was temporarily fixed, but now it is doing the lovely lean, and they're just worried that it's potentially going to become a hazard to someone, especially in the neighborhood, or a passerby on a windy day. We've had some pretty windy days. So they just wanted to have that looked into to maybe have it more permanently repaired.
And any other future questions or requests of the town manager? Okay, thank you. So we'll move on. We do not have any discussions planned, or rather, we don't have any discussions on the agenda. Do we have any committee reports? Mr. Murphy?
Yes, Budget and Finance met this evening, and I will chair the new Budget and Finance Committee. I know all the committees, I think, have been posted to the website, the new ones, right? Mm-hmm. For folks to see. We did talk a little bit tonight about what we'd like the future of the meetings to look like. And just so folks are aware, we asked the Finance Department if they could provide us with regular revenues and expenses so that we can share that out with folks on a regular basis. We did ask to see the audit contract from the company that spoke here this evening to see if there's any additions or things that we could ask them to look into further, possibly on that. Hopefully that gives us a little bit more control going forward with those pieces. We also talked about the roadway stabilization fund that I had referenced when we talked about the override, and throw out some ideas and a path that we could put forth to address the roadways and maintenance of our roadways. And finally, we talked about water and sewer, looking at that big picture financially, seeing how we can get a plan together for that, and also incorporate what we've already done to have a comprehensive financial plan for how we're going to address some of those big things. So hopefully utilizing this position in our committee to address some of the bigger issues that the town's facing, but look forward to being able to provide a regular update to folks on those matters.
Great, thank you. And I don't believe any other committees met, so I don't believe we have any other reports. Okay, great. So we'll move on to legislation for action, budget order FY 26-006. This is for CPA reserve accounts, and I will refer this to the town manager.
So this is an annual action that the council needs to take to appropriate the for this year, FY 26, $1,035,000. And there's a table with your order that shows that that money's going into the three required reserves, 10% each, as state law expects. Administrative expenses of a small amount, paying debt service that's due on two projects, the Academy Building and the Keith Homestead, and then the balance into budgetary reserves.
Thank you. I will entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Second by Mr. Lindy. And do we have any discussion?
Just to share, the Budget and Finance voted 3-0.
Oh, yes, that's right. And then and the Finance Committee voted, I believe it was 5-0 unanimously. Thank you. And any questions or discussions from councilors? Okay. I'll entertain a, or rather, we just did that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? And motion passes. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on next to FY 25-060, capital plan transfers for FY 2026, and I will refer to the town manager.
This order would transfer $633,230.93 from the Capital Stabilization Fund and the Ambulance Receipts for Appropriation Fund to be used to pay the lease payments for the various vehicles and equipment that the town has previously obligated itself to for FY26. We'd like to do this at this point in the year so it's ready for those payments to be made as soon as the next fiscal year starts.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I have just a... Do you want me to?
Oh, the committees. Oh, we'll do that first. Sorry. Yeah, so Finance Committee voted unanimously to approve, and then Budget and Finance.
Yeah. Budget and Finance voted 3-0.
Oh, and then Finance was 5-0. Yeah, so Finance and Budget and Finance.
And just a quick comment on that, too, just what we talked about at the Budget and Finance Committee, to your best understanding, we're not adding any vehicles. Just, I thought it was important for folks to know we're replacing vehicles. We did talk about that at Budget and Finance. To the best of your knowledge.
To the best of my knowledge.
Thank you.
Great. And then I now will entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Councilor Striggles and Councilor Hunt, thank you very much. And all those in, or rather, any further discussion?
Just one question. For the town, do we typically do revolving leases on most of the emergency vehicles? Is that kind of the way
that's
that we've got it set up?
That's my understanding. That's been the preferred method to acquire vehicles, to be able to at least purchase them over time.
Okay, that's all.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next, we'll move on to Order FY 25-061, contractual buyouts. And again, back to the town manager.
So the town maintains, as you know, its employee liability fund, which is specifically set up for the purpose of paying out some liabilities that the town may be obligated to employees who are separating from service or other situations. In this case, right now, this order is for $118,700. We have two long-term firefighters who are retiring on disability retirements who are owed for sick time that they've accumulated. And then we have a salary settlement for an employee at the library, and thus those two items make up the total that I mentioned.
Thank you. And I'll ask Councilor Murphy for an update for Budget and Finance.
Yes, Budget and Finance voted for 3-0 for this. We also talked about, just if I could give a quick update on that. We also talked about the liability in general of some of these retirement accounts, and knowing that previous contracts could be years, decades ago that were negotiated have since changed over time to maybe help address some of this liability on the town. And so the Budget and Finance Committee talked about exploring what that liability is from a big picture standpoint and just what is on forecast for the years to come. So something we potentially would look at, but just thought it would be helpful for that context as well. And yet, Budget and Finance voted 3-0 for approval.
Thanks. It's important context. Thank you for that. And Finance Committee also voted unanimously to approve, so I will entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Councilor Hunt, and then do I have a second? Second. Thank you, Ms. Ellenberg. And any discussion from councilors?
I have one more question, I guess, for the town manager, and our attorney can shut me off for this if I ask it wrong. But because we have 2 retiring fire employees, and we have potential 4 being asked in the override, will these 2 be replaced? Is that the intention or filled?
Well, as you know, we eliminated one position. If the override doesn't pass, we had eliminated one position that's going to be open because of these 2 retirements, so we would only fill 1.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Next, FY 25-062, loan authorization, Plymouth Street Wells Project, and again, this will go to the town manager.
The State Department of Environmental Protection has approved its plan for this next year for projects across the state for which they're eligible for low-interest loans or loan forgiveness. In order to participate in that program, in our case, the Plymouth Street Well Project to connect those well sites to the High Street plant to remove iron and manganese from the water, the town is required to pass a loan authorization, this legislation, by June 30th to have it in place so that later this year, when we're finished design and ready to go out to bid, we'll be able to participate in obtaining that. We are on a separate track, just so you know, also pursuing a grant to try to pay for some or all of this, but we need this to be in place, especially if that grant doesn't come through, to be able to borrow it at lower cost than we'd be able to borrow if we went out to the market on our own.
Great, thank you. And Councilor Murphy again, Budget and Finance?
Voted 3-0.
Excellent. And then I also believe Finance voted unanimously to approve. Do I have a motion for approval?
Motion.
Thank you, Ms. Ellenberg.
Seconded.
Second, Councilor Sturgills, thank you. And any discussion from councilors?
I just have one question. Do you know what the going interest rate would be for such a loan?
I don't. I'm going to guess it's in the area of 2%, but I don't know right now. That's been a moving target these days.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next we'll move on to Resolution FY 25-012, resolution on FY 26 school district budget funding. This measure was not referred to any committees. 14 days has elapsed, and therefore this measure may be considered this evening, and I will defer to Councilor Sturgills on this one.
Thank you, President Loretti. I am cautiously optimistic as we move forward towards override votes in both towns, as Rainham has voted as a town 349 to 88 to bring an override vote to their town. It was wonderful to see civic engagement, and I think it shows the overall optimism that hopefully a letter like this won't be needed. But I do think that the sentiment of the letter and the messaging that I have received from members of the school committee, not all, but some, is that there's still an appetite to entertain making sure that both towns' voters are respected at the end of the day. So that's kind of my 2 cents on the matter. I think the letter speaks for itself, but I do think that we will need to make some amendments to it as far as the letter is concerned, just changing who the new chair is. It's Rachel King, so we will have to make that change, but ultimately just retooling it a little bit before it would ever be sent.
Great. With that, I will entertain a motion for approval and discussion.
So moved.
Second.
Councillor Hunt and Councillor Lindy. And discussion. Councillor Striggles, do we want to make any amendments to that language?
Yes, I would make an amendment to obviously change who the president and vice president are at the top, but also to change who the letter is being sent to. It should be Rachel King, chairwoman, and dear Chairwoman King and committee members. She's the new chair of the school committee.
Okay.
Councilor Striggles, it also references an April 16th meeting in here, so we should probably just change that to the next meeting date.
You also may want to amend the bottom as signed by Dr. Kevin Perry as president.
Yes, that as well, to change to you.
Okay, so just in summary, the amendment on the table is to change the letterhead at the top to the current council, to the recipient, which would be Chairwoman King, and then we would obviously address that to her, and then we would change the date of April 16th to their next date, and then I believe the final amendment would be to have the signature at the bottom be from myself as town council president. Is that correct?
Correct.
I'll entertain a motion to approve those amendments.
Motion.
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy and Councillor Hunt. All those in favor of those amendments?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so now I'll entertain a motion to approve the resolution and the letter as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Hunt and Councillor Lindy. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye. Me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next, we have proposed zoning ordinance FY 25-018, a zoning map amendment. This was originally introduced by Councillor Chase, and I believe Councillor Perry was going to substitute as the sponsor of this. So with that being said, because Councillor Perry is not here tonight, I would entertain a motion to continue this to our next meeting. Do I have that motion?
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Strickland and Councillor Ellenberg. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. And we are now done with legislation for action, so we'll move on to new business. We do not have any old business. So new business, order FY 25-063, acceptance of a gift from the Bridgewater Police Association. I will ask the town manager to update on this one.
So I think this is fairly self-explanatory. The Police Association wishes to give a gift of $1,850 for the use by the Bridgewater's Veterans Office to be used at the Veterans Service Officer's discretion.
Great. All right, so I will entertain a motion to refer this to the Budget and Finance Committee.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy and Councillor Striggles. Any discussion on referring to Budget and Finance?
You may also want to refer it to the Finance Committee, too.
Oh, yeah, sorry, and to Finance. So I'll make that motion again. Refer to Budget and Finance Committee.
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Striggles and Councillor Hunt. So any discussion on referring? And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next one, we have Order FY 25-064, an order creating an ad hoc TIF oversight committee for 60 to 86 Broad Street. So this is simply to set up the TIF oversight committee. This was originally introduced by myself and Councilor Murphy. This is not for any particular agreement or designating the zone specifically. This is simply to create the ad hoc committee, which may or may not establish that zone, and then may or may
I'd like to make a
not.
motion to amend.
Yes. And what is your amendment?
My amendment is to send it to the CED committee of the council, which already exists for this exact purpose.
Yes.
That is the purpose of the committee. So I'd like to send it to that committee. If we want to add some citizens to that committee in addition to council people, I think we could consider doing that. But this is what the committee is created for, so I'd like to send it to
I'm going to second that motion.
Okay. Before we do that, do I have any comments from Councilor Murphy as we were introducing this?
Just for clarification, Councilor Hunt, you wanted to send it to CED just for their oversight or approval of this?
For the committee, normally something like this would be sent to the Community and Economic Development Committee
Yes.
of the council.
For them to
And
vote and send it back to the council?
For them to vote and send it back to the
Yeah.
council. And if somehow people feel that sending it to that committee is not sufficient for the council's feelings about it, the CED committee could appoint 3 citizens or two citizens, because we want to make it an uneven vote, so there isn't a tie vote on it.
I don't think they would have the authority. I mean, I guess refer to Jason, but I don't think that they could appoint citizens.
So it's not a motion to amend. You're just making a motion to refer to a specific committee at this point, right? Yeah. I just want to make sure I understand.
My motion is to not make an ad hoc committee to do this,
So then
but to use the existing committee of the council to do it.
Okay, so the two different things. So if your motion is to not make an ad hoc committee, that would be essentially a no vote when it gets referred out because you want it to end here. If your motion is to refer it to a specific committee, that's a different motion. So one is a motion and one is a vote. So I guess...
Do one and then the other? Or
No, so, well, first there's got to be a motion to refer. And then you vote on the motion to refer. And I thought you were initially making a motion to refer to CED.
Yes, that is what I was doing.
Okay, so then that's a different motion than voting against this altogether. What could happen is you could make a motion to refer to CED, it could get referred there, a recommendation could come back from that committee, and then you could all vote no on this. I mean, it doesn't matter how that process looks, but for what you're looking to do, there's only 2 options. One is you just simply vote no on whatever motion is before the board to refer out, or you make the motion to which committee you think it should be referred, and then the council votes on it.
Yes, that was my intention, was to make a motion to send it to the CED committee, to change the wording of this request, to send it to CED.
So the pending motion is on this order to send to that committee?
That's correct.
Yes. You beat me to the punch. I was going to suggest that, but I'll... Okay. So motion for referring to CED made by Councilor Hunt and then seconded by Mr. Lindy. And do we have any discussion on referring to the CED committee?
I have a question. So the ad hoc committee is just about the TIF and the tax rate and all that. So what would we be sending it to that committee for? For them to decide whether an ad hoc committee should look at the TIF?
You would be sending it to your standing committee, which is the CED committee, to bring a reference back to the council to be voted on as these things that we just did before.
To recommend whether we should form an ad hoc committee or not. Is that what we're saying?
Possibility and you'll vote to either create that ad hoc committee or not. And if you don't create that ad hoc committee, that doesn't mean there's no way to do a TIF agreement. It just means you're not taking that route.
Correct.
Does that
And
make
I would
sense?
add to that, that it would be the job of the standing committee to determine whether or not you could create a TIF. That is the work, that would be the work of the CED committee, is to determine making a TIF.
So one more question. Maybe one of you guys could answer it since you want to form it. Did you feel that it's so in-depth with the TIF and the qualifications and all that, that we need an ad hoc committee to just discuss and look into a TIF, whether it's worth the hound and how to go about it?
Yeah, so as it kind of explains in the order, this will be an extensive process, and we do believe that an ad hoc committee should be set up with a number of members to take a look at this and to see it through all the way to the end of the project, hopefully. So we feel that there should be a dedicated group to work on this specifically, and perhaps Mr. Rulli could speak more to those efforts as to the reasons why that's a good idea.
I think in your packets, I had written a memo 6 weeks ago explaining just the state requirements with respect to tax increment financing. So there are a number of procedural steps that have to happen. So you can have something at the local level, but you also have to have approval at the state level to have an agreement go forward. There are certain milestones that have to be set forth. So, I mean, from my office's standpoint, it could be either or. But, I mean, we have to go through that process. Could it be done through the CET committee? Possibly, yeah. Could it be through an ad hoc? Yes. But, I mean, I think my memo kind of sets forth all of the requirements. It's pretty extensive in terms of documentation, job creation, and we're prepared to do that with whatever committee you charge us to work with.
Okay.
Yes, I think as a member of CED, I've done an enormous amount of research on this, so I have pages and pages along with what Mr. Rulli has sent. I would think that that's what CED members would do when something like this, it's like you send things to the Budget and Finance Committee for them to figure out and send back a recommendation to you. That's their job, to look into it deeply. Same thing with CED, is to look into it deeply and study it. I probably have 50 pages of stuff about what that would mean. So it's fine. I mean, it's up to the council what you would do. I would like to change it to send it to the CED and have them do their work as they're appointed from the
the motion on the table is to send it to CED. Is there any discussion on sending it to CED for them to do their work?
Could I ask one more question? I kind of had it in my head and I'm almost forgetting it now. So the ad hoc, that if we do have a ad hoc for TIF oversight, would we be voting on, the council would be voting on, you guys would present us the information, tell us whether you think it should be done or not, but it's voted by the town council whether to proceed with it or not, to accept it?
With the TIF agreement, yes.
Yeah, so the ad hoc committee would not have the authority to forward, to say, yeah, we're going to give it or we're not going to give it?
No, they wouldn't have the authority to execute on their own. This would eventually come back to the council. So.
And we would vote on it?
Yes.
So that way I'm fine with the ad hoc, because I also looked into it, and it's very in-depth. And I think it'd be better just to have an ad hoc committee just focus on
But we don't have to
TIF.
debate it.
No, I'm just saying,
It's just the referral. So once CED makes their findings,
Yeah.
after, if we so choose to refer, then we could discuss it at a council level if we want to heed their recommendation or not.
Right.
Question, if you're done. Will the ad hoc committee be in a position to be negotiating? For example, I've heard from many constituents, they want only a 5-year TIF, okay? And the developer, of course, wants 15 years. Would the ad hoc committee be negotiating such a thing and working it out? Or would that be the council? I'm just curious in terms of procedure.
Perhaps the town attorney could chime in here, but the ad hoc committee would be responsible for the work being made to develop the area, firstly, and then also the potential agreement. And then again, we would have their recommendations here at the council level, and then we can make those final determinations. But the ad hoc, we were basically relying on them to do a deep dive and their expertise, and then they would come to the council with a proposal, and then we could amend those suggestions.
Yeah, I think if I understand how this is created, so this is a common way it's done in most cities and towns. So the ad hoc committee basically looks at it, looks at the area, looks at the possible development, whatever that is, then comes before the council in a discussion, likely. And from that discussion, a councilor will likely sponsor both the creation of a district and the execution of an agreement. That stays at the council level for final determination. Of course, it has to get referred out. Those things would get referred out to your usual committees and the finance committee through the normal course. But the intent of this is really for a committee to do due diligence to see if there's something there to even bring back to the council that then a council member or two could sponsor legislation on. So ultimately, any decision that's made is going to be the decision of this full body. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the point of this is to do due diligence to see if this is something that this council, or the recommendation of the ad hoc committee for this council to explore.
Yep, makes sense.
I guess my question was, why don't we think that the appointed committee is sufficient to do the work?
And that's something that you all can discuss as it's being hopefully referred to you, and then bring your findings to us, and then we can make a determination if we want to create the ad hoc committee or move forward with a potential TIF area and then a TIF agreement, relying on the CED as opposed to an ad hoc committee. And we would, again, look forward to your recommendations. Okay. Any other discussion?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. President. If we had an ad hoc committee and we included some citizens, would we be able to include some accountants with financial acumen?
What is proposed here just has an ad hoc committee of town council members. And again, we could discuss potentially broadening that scope. Yeah.
Sure. I mean, I think you could.
Okay.
I think that what you're recommending, at least now, is just on the notion of referring.
Yeah. So we've got to stay within the scope.
Yeah. These are all ideas. I think these are the ideas that honestly need to get parsed out through your legislative process. And then if there's amendments after committee recommendations, that's when those kind of things start to come to light. But I think the committee meeting is important in that way, because if there are things for the committee to look at, it's a good idea for those things to be kind of worked through the legislative process.
Mm-hmm.
I think part of my thing was we're all new, so we don't all know each other. But making these committees, I mean, on a committee, you can ask people to come in and talk to you at the committee and bring you information and all that sort of thing. If you don't walk with that expertise already, you bring it in and you get it given to you. But ignoring an appointed committee at the second meeting of the town council feels a little, I don't know, a little hurtful about being appointed to a committee and then saying, okay, that's not good enough for us to use, even though this is the type of thing that would go to that committee. So I guess that's what I'm saying.
Councilor Lindy.
And I kind of agree with Councilor Hunt, because I think that's the purpose of the ad hoc committee, just like the purpose of budget and finance is to refer items out and then for the committee to deliberate, just like rules and procedures. I personally don't think we need another ad hoc committee. I think we have the capability to do that, but hopefully we'll get it referred.
Yeah, duly noted. Yeah, so we would hopefully look forward to the CED committee on their comments as to how the council should proceed, and then we will bring it back to the council level after their meeting. Excellent. And we look forward to those. Again, if this passes, we would look forward to your comments. So,
can I just make a comment just before we refer it? Just to address the hatefulness, I think, as an author of this, I think we've seen the path where this has required a lot of in-depth study that needs to take place before any approval agreement comes to the table. And the intention was to create a committee that was dedicated to diving into this process and this outcome. I want to be clear that there was never intention to subsede or go around the CED committee. So I think there was just an intentional wording on there of wanting to make sure that folks were really focusing and diving in before the council made a determination on this, because ultimately it's going to have a huge impact on the town itself beyond just, central business district itself. So I think that was just the intention, but not to...
Absolutely, absolutely. And I didn't say hateful. I said hurtful.
Hurtful, excuse me.
Correct.
Just a comment. I'd like to see it referred just to get the feedback from you, because maybe the ad hoc is or is not appropriate. Maybe the ad hoc with community members involved is appropriate. I think taking a look at the entire workload that may be involved is something that is completely reasonable to look at. So I think any further amendments would be at the vote at the next meeting. So I would just like to hear CED's opinion on the entire matter, whether or not it is something that you guys can contain, or if a special ad hoc is required to dive into it at the level that we're hoping is, and flesh the entire thing out so it can be explained to the council, so we're well educated on the vote when it comes. So,
okay.
One final point, just to be clear, the CED committee is just taking this and giving input, thoughts, feelings.
Yes.
They are not actually serving as the ad hoc committee.
No.
They are just looking at this legislation and saying...
This is getting referred to them. All this is in order to create an ad hoc committee to look at this.
Right.
So that's step one of many.
They're just evaluating the order.
That's it.
That's it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's it.
But a motion currently stands on the floor, does it not?
Yeah, so the motion right now is simply to refer to CED and to have their findings on whether we need to establish an ad hoc.
Question, if the CED brings in accountants, would they have to pay them versus having citizen volunteers that are accountants?
Well, the CED committee, Bob, yeah.
We're not even close to being there yet.
Yeah.
Council Ellenberg's point, at whatever point you're negotiating an agreement, when you would be taking a deep dive into the financials, it would be appropriate perhaps to have a third-party financial. But right now, you're just looking at process and procedure. You would not even be having numbers to look at.
Yes.
I want to be clear, too. There's a CED committee in the town. I'm talking about the council, CED committee. Okay, I just want to be clear. Just want to be clear about that.
Okay.
Can I just get clarity? So we're referring it to the CDC to decide whether we should go forward with this ad hoc? Isn't it just easier if we just vote right now and decide whether we want to go forward with it or not?
We can't, because it's the first reading.
You could vote to keep it at council level. That's a different motion, but you first have to vote the referral.
Well, say if the referral wasn't on the thing.
If there was no motion to refer, you could make a motion to keep at council level, just like any other order, and then you could vote it at the second reading like you can any other order.
Yeah, because I'm wondering why we have to refer to someone to say, okay, yeah, why don't you do it? Rather, we can just do it us. The council's here, so we can refer.
That's up to you guys.
You know what I mean? To skip
That's why you get paid the big bucks.
We're skipping the step. I don't understand why we're adding another step.
Well, so the motion on the table is to refer, and you bring up a good point that if you don't wish to refer and the motion fails, we could then potentially entertain a motion to keep it at the council level, and then the council can discuss amongst ourselves what we would then do with what is proposed in regard to establishing an ad hoc. This motion would just have CED weigh in on the particulars amongst themselves and then report back to us. But it's going to come back to us anyway, and we can take their advice or not. But we would look forward to their expertise into diving into this. Councilor Striggles.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think one thing that us as a council, it seemed to be a common theme of wanting our committees within the council to function at a high level. And we can't just have some committees function at a high level and have things referred and then not refer things to others. I say that as a member of CED, a new member of CED with a long-standing knowledge of the TIF process and also the overall commercial lending issues that we're facing within not only our Commonwealth but nationwide. So I have a very firm grasp on it, and I do think that if we easily refer a budgetary item to Budget and Finance without blinking, we should refer a developmental procedure item to CED without blinking.
Any further comments on, again, referring to CED? Seeing none, I will give my comments. Again, I concur with Councilor Striggles. I believe that we should lean on our committees and then look forward to their input. And then we're always going to be sitting here as a council to be able to deliberate this further with, again, their expert advice and opinions. So with that being said, the motion on the table is to refer. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed?
No.
One. All right. One opposed motion will carry. That will be referred to CED. And the next item here is FY 25-065, acceptance of a grant from the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs. I will ask Town Manager Robinson to weigh in on this.
Thank you. The town applied for and has received a $40,000 grant to update its open space and recreation plan. As you probably all know, communities are required to have an open space and recreation plan in order to be able to apply for various grants that come after it. So we're asking you to accept, move the process to accept this grant.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to refer to Budget and Finance Committee?
So move.
Second.
Councilor Hunt and Councilor Lindy, thank you. Any discussion on referring to Budget and Finance? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, order FY 25-066, transfer order, flagpole returning funds to a one-time stabilization fund. I will ask Town Manager Robinson to weigh in on this one.
This request is to move the monies that was previously moved to an account to be able to undertake the flagpole project and put it back in the one-time stabilization fund. After it was approved by the council, we learned that the Historic District Commission had jurisdiction over this project. We applied for their approval to be able to undertake the project. It was denied, and so there's no point to be able to move forward because it's not allowed. So this order would put the money back from whence it came.
Thank you for that. Do I
Motion
have
to
a motion?
table with explanation.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
I received a letter from the president of the Historic District Commission explaining why they didn't vote to have the money. And I'd like to share that with the council because I think there might be other opportunities for the 3 flagpoles that weren't being explicit in what was here at the. So can I read my letter?
Yeah.
Okay. Read his letter. It's from Dr. William Smith, who's the head of the HDC. And I'll skip some parts of it, but I will read what I have here. We are solely concerned about the placement of the 3 flagpoles. We did not discuss any of the types of flags. We were concerned that the flagpoles would distract from the green space and the garden, which the HDC worked very hard to design. We very much like the openness and sweep of the garden currently, that the garden currently has, which would be compromised by 3 flagpoles. We were also extremely concerned that the pavers that were being used around the 3 flagpoles would be out of a different iteration from the existing ones. And the town facilities manager told us about the difference in the iteration of the pavers. We felt strongly we did not want them to look different. All concerns were aesthetic and design related. No mention was made of the 2 town by the two town representatives that the flagpoles and pavers would be installed by professionals. The drawings submitted in the application seem to be generated in-house and not by professional landscapers. There are various possibilities for the use of the 3 flagpoles. Please feel free to share my thoughts with your colleagues. So I wanted to make it clear, for one reason, that I didn't want it to seem that it was the flags themselves that were being opposed. It was the flag poles and their placement on the Academy lawn that was being opposed by the Historic District Commission, which that's part of their order. And so then, just on another little tiny side note, a very good suggestion was given to me by Councilor Lindy, and I've run it past, just verbally past a couple people, saying, why don't we put the 3 flag poles on the Summer Street property? The university is looking for that to be a lovely entrance to the university, and having the 3 flag poles there with the United States flag, the state flag, the town flag, and the POW flag under the United States flag might be a really lovely thing as you come down Summer Street there. So not that that is anything that hasn't really been passed through, but that is an idea. And I thought if we could keep the money that we already have set aside for the 3 flag poles, instead of putting it back and going back and getting it again, and when we decide that maybe we can put up the 3 flag poles, maybe that would be a better thing than just sending the whole thing back and starting all over again another time. So that's my thinking.
Any further discussion on the
Point of
motion?
order, Mr. President, there's no discussion on tabling.
I agree.
Oh,
It's supposed to go directly to a vote.
Yep.
And if a majority of the vote to table it, it's tabled.
Yes.
I agree.
thank you. Forgot about that. Okay, so I will we'll do a roll call vote on the motion to table.
Can I ask, can I just get quote, if we table it, it doesn't come back to us?
You're tabling the money. You're tabling the vote to send the money back.
Oh, no, wait a minute.
Yeah, this is to return the funds. You're tabling that, so funds are going to be held in limbo, which is another issue, but it's your motion, so there's no debate on it.
And there's no discussion now that it's motion to table.
Correct.
Yeah.
So if I vote yes, the money just stays somewhere? Okay.
Somewhere.
Let's do a roll call vote on this one, please.
No.
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 Yes.
Yes. So the motion fails, so
Back to the main motion.
back to the main motion. And I'm looking for a motion to refer this to Budget and Finance Committee for further discussion.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Striggles, and second by Councilor Ellenberg. Further discussion on referring. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Next, order FY25-067, end of the year transfers. I will ask Town Manager Robinson to weigh in on this one.
Thank you, Mr. President. So per the name, this is a end-of-year action that happens every year, as state law requires that we cannot end with any negative balances in any of our accounts except for snow and ice. And so what you find here is a list of transfers from various accounts where there is funds that have not been spent and are not needed, totaling $657,000. And on the second page are all the accounts to which we need to transfer funds to make sure that we have sufficient funds to end the year with a positive balance.
Thank you very much. With that, I'm going to entertain a motion to refer this to Budget and Finance Committee.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Striggles and Councilor Murphy. Any discussion on referring? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And next, General Ordinance FY 25-020, adoption of Clause 22J of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 5. This is the HERO Act. So Clause 22J would allow veterans to receive, disabled veterans to receive a tax exemption. We could go anywhere from 0 up to 100%. As this ordinance is written, it would suggest a 50%. However, we could decide to go higher or lower if we so choose. We do have to keep in mind that this would have an implication on our budget this year because this was not budgeted. So right now, what I'm looking to simply do is to refer this to Budget and Finance and the Finance Committee for them to dive into this and then refer back to the council.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilor Striggles. Do I have a second? Councilor Lindy. Any discussion? You're right. I'm sorry.
Rules and procedures.
Yeah. So I'm going to redo that. I read it wrong on my notes here. So I'm going to look for a motion to refer to rules and procedures.
Point of order. Are you rescinding your motion?
Yes, I'm
Mr.
rescinding a motion. So motion rescinded, and then again, looking for a motion to refer to rules and procedures.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilor
And I'll
Striggles.
keep the second.
And then second, Councilor Lindy. And any discussion on referring to rules and procedures? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. And lastly,
Point of order. So is this on the adoption of 22J?
yes.
The clause that would increase tax exemption, the monetary amounts? Yeah, I believe that has to go to Finance Committee as well. I think you can decide rules and procedures, but I think it also needs to go to Finance.
So with that being done, can we come back to the main motion and make another motion to refer?
I think you've already made a motion to refer to one committee. I think you can make a subsequent motion to refer to Finance.
Before we move on.
I don't think you don't have to rescind the prior motion and vote because it went to the committee you want, the subcommittee. But I think it also, we haven't moved to the next ordinance, so that's good. I think you have to refer something that involves taxation or monetary amounts relative to the collection of taxation or exemptions to Finance.
Okay.
So I think it also needs to go to the Finance Committee.
Okay, so rules and procedures already passed, so we'll entertain another motion to refer to Budget and Finance Committee.
Are you saying, just to clarify, in parallel, both committees?
When you refer out to your own committees,
Yeah.
that's up to you, which committees you all refer to. You could refer it to only rules and procedures. You could refer it to both. But under the charter, everything that involves the finances of the town has to also be referred to the Finance Committee. So in terms of referring to both committees, that's entirely up to you. But I do think under the charter, you absolutely have to refer it to the Finance Committee itself.
So why wouldn't we just send it to Rules and Procedures and get it back and send it to Finance?
You have to send it to Finance every single time it has to do with any monetary issue. Not Budget and Finance, not your committee, the Finance Committee of the town.
But we can't hear from Rules and Procedures first?
No.
Okay. So if they come back and they amend it, because they're getting it now, it has to go back to the Finance Committee again?
Likely.
Because it'll be an amended version.
But they don't amend anything. Your committees don't amend anything. They make
Suggest, yes.
recommendations to the council to amend things.
Right.
So when it comes before the council, you can decide if it's something you're interested in looking into. And if it changes the nature of it, it should probably be re-referred to the Finance Committee, which does happen from time to time.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you for that. So with that being said, I'll entertain a motion to refer this to Budget and Finance Committee.
So moved.
Second.
Councilor Stiggles, thank you. And Councilor Ellenberg, discussion on referring to Budget and Finance Committee? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Lastly, we have Resolution FY 25-013, resolution support for FY 2026 annual budget order. So this is brought forward by myself due to the passing of the recent 2026 budget, due to Section 6.3 B of the Charter. And we're also going to have a public hearing at our next meeting on June 3rd. I'm proposing this budget order to basically accompany that hearing, which would essentially have the council voice their support in the form of resolution of the budget, as we didn't have a proper hearing at our previous meeting. So this would hopefully come in parallel with that hearing, and then we would be able to officially voice our support in the form of resolution of that FY 2026 budget. So all that I'm looking for here is to a motion to retain at the council level.
So moved.
Second.
Councilor Striggles and Councilor Murphy, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so now we'll move on to citizen comments. Due to Massachusetts open meeting law requirements, discussions will not take place during public comment periods. If appropriate, responses to questions and concerns will be given by the town manager at a future town council meeting. Again, please keep your comments at 3 minutes. Would anyone like to come up and speak?
Carlton Hunt, Austin Street. I wanted to remind the council, or inform the council, I'm not sure which. I wish Mr. Rulli were still here. But part of the park discussion of Summer Street Park requires the Parks and Rec Commission to vote on the plan. If they don't do that, you're not likely to get the money. And I've talked with the town manager about this. Also, there is a deed restriction required under, as CPA, there's a deed restriction required on that parcel because the CPA money was used to purchase that property. That deed restriction needs to be done by the summer. The town, as I understand it, having read some of the regulations, the town cannot hold a deed restriction of its own property. An independent party has to hold that. So that is something that has to be discussed also in this process. There is a proposal that has been sent to several councilors to do that. It happens to be the Flora T. Little park owners, the Bridgewater Improvement Association. Our charter allows us to manage municipal property. Thank you. The last thing I'll say is the Energy Committee Chair, where you're talking about vehicles, you need to think about ecologically sound vehicles. That is a green community. You can get grant awards for purchasing vehicles. And I know the planning department, Mr. O'Brien, is very active in this, but that's just another place where you can get some money to get vehicles. Thank you.
Thank you.
John Donna, 261 South Street. Just want to recognize Councilman Murphy for his work on budget and finance. It's obvious that you spend a lot of time grinding numbers with the best and asking tough questions in the best interest of the town. So thank you for your work there. I just want to speak briefly regarding potential upcoming residential housing building in this town, MBTA or otherwise. If anyone's been coming to meetings the past few months, school committee or here, we've learned that, the BR classrooms are now 30+ students. And the levels aren't much better in the middle schools or the elementary schools. And if you've been coming to meetings, you know that the water quality is questionable, and there's not enough right now. So I think there has to be some serious questions about curbing residential building at this time, be it due to the MBTA law or otherwise. I think it's doing a disservice to our kids, it's doing a disservice to the teachers, and it's a disservice to the current residents of Bridgewater. So I hope my fellow residents will be active in speaking on this matter. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John.
Ashley Mallard, 270. I didn't get to say this earlier, but I just wanted to publicly thank Councilman Murphy for joining me to testify for it State House to have the Chapter 70 funding formula changed because there is an inflationary cap in the Chapter 70 funding, and we were there with our representative, Mr. Gallagher, in order to advocate. And I got to tell you, there's an opportunity here for us to continue to remain involved in doing stuff like this and advocating for a variety of financial gains that could happen both to benefit BSU, both to benefit the town of Bridgewater, and also any money that trickles down to the school, remember, is offsetting money that the town needs to put in. So these are things that I would like to see more counselors get involved in, and I have the avenue to get us there. So if you are interested, please let me know. It was a great experience. Lesson learned, though, 2 minutes. Luckily, the timer wasn't working for us at that moment, so that was good. But I also come up here to raise concern with the letter that's being proposed to the school committee. I don't believe that there's a clear understanding of how the joint meeting works. There seems to be some confusion, and I think that's brought forth, I'll be frank, from Rainham. I think there's some discussions across the board that are happening, and I think Rainham did this in a way that is a little concerning. And now, after watching the presentation tonight, I am also concerned here because town manager made a clarification. There's technically no cuts happening to the services. There's unfilled positions, but there are no actual cuts happening to services in town if the override fails, except for the school. Guess what? Rainham, same thing. If there is no override, there are 0 cuts happening to the town services in Rainham. For the second year in a row, the school will be the only town service that has to take the cuts. And guess what? You just showed me that you have extra money in the reserve. I get that reserve money should not be used to perpetuate salaries. That's why I agreed to advocate for the override. But for goodness sakes, guys, it can't be just the school that takes the hit 2 years in a row. That is also fiscally irresponsible. That is inappropriate. So the town should have not be asking the school committee to come back and say, let's come up with a better budget. The $10 million override split between the two towns does not have to be the ask, just for clarification at the joint town meeting. They could come back with a level services ask. Now I realize your 4.67 was possibly an inappropriate number, considering you knew we were going to need cuts. Your 4.67 contribution was saying, we know we're underservicing you, but we refuse to underservice anybody else. That's weird. That's inappropriate. I'm disappointed. And I want a better, your problem is you just created someone who's going to watch you for the whole year round. And you created a whole entire group of parents who are going to as well. This is not what we're going to walk into next year. People are worried about 5-year projections. People are discussing the idea of taking a look at this in a different way, audited differently. The school committee has made it clear, the 5-year projection, they're holding out on how many actually they would support to lower class sizes. I mean, that's there. The information is definitely out there. I'm looking forward to these meetings. I'll make sure we have a presence. But I just want to be clear. It is totally inappropriate. We would never tell the police that they're the only ones who are going to get cut in town. We would never tell the fire department they're going to be the only ones who get cut in town. I don't want to see those cuts. Let's make that apparent. But you should be being honest with the community that if the override fails, that you have to at least level service fund this community, this school system, and you have to face cuts in the other services. And you're doing a disservice to a huge portion of this population. I'm disappointed in the actions of asking for this request. You as a committee have no right. And even guess what? If the school committee agrees with you, it doesn't mean that they lose that legal right. They're just making a cross their fingers, sure, until every single parent comes to their door and starts knocking on the school committee saying, you have to fund the school at some point. You have to fund it. And we're not just talking 33. I saw class lists, 47 kids in classes, 47.
Thank you, Ashley. Any other comments from citizens?
Mr. President, members of the council, MJ Spagone, 5 Lakeshore Center, Unit 1128. I express concern again over the concept of doing a forensic audit. I appreciate that folks are having that type of vigorous discussion about it, but without knowing what they're looking for, without making it public, I don't know if anybody here would be supportive of a forensic audit. One thing is when you do a forensic audit like that, if you're saying that there's some sort of fraud, waste, and abuse within the town government and within a municipality, you're making two accusations. One, that the town doesn't know what it's doing, and two, that your employees are irresponsible and almost bordering on criminal. I'd like to know if there is a specific there that we're actually looking for, that we're trying to broach this topic. It really worries me when I hear these types of things, because I know we have good financials, we do have good accounting, our auditors have actually said we do a pretty good job. I mean, the only time I know we had some serious issues were back in the early 2000s. That's because audits weren't done for several years. They found problems. The town fixed them by fixing their practices, timings, and tactics and protocols. But constantly asking for a forensic audit is not prudent, and it is almost accusatory against public employees. I can tell you right now, in a career that I am in, I'm actually a municipal collector myself. And I can tell you right now, with a lot of the stuff that we have to do, that we have to abide by through Massachusetts general law, we are held to a very high standard. Every one of my colleagues and I have to hold a very large bond that protects the municipality. If we do something wrong that's not an error of omission or a scrivener's error, we face activating that bond. It protects your municipality. It doesn't protect us. I'm bonded for $150,000. If I screw up something major, guess who gets the $150,000? The municipality that I work for. Guess who has to pay that $150,000? Yours truly. So please, I caution you, when you're saying you want a forensic audit, please make it publicly aware and known that you believe that there is a specific aspect of fraud, waste, or abuse within a municipal department, because right now, you have a lot of departments probably thinking, well, they're accusing us of doing something bad. Okay, well, which department is doing it wrong? Is it the collector's office? Is it the finance director's office? Is it the police department? Is it the fire department? Please be specific. Please, in the interest of your constituencies, myself as a constituent as well, I ask you, I beseech you, hell, as the chair of the finance committee, I'd like to know what the particular issue is as well. Please, be open and forthright about it. Don't dance around the issue. Get to the point. If you want a forensic audit, fine, have that conversation. But please, tell us where you think the exact problem is, and do it in a public forum, because honestly, that will expose the issue right there in the bright light of day. Transparency thrives in sunlight. That's what government thrives on. Please, I beg you, as a resident, as a taxpayer, and as a public servant, please, when you throw around the terminology of a forensic audit, do so with trepidation and careful tacitness. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Any residents would like to come up and speak? All right, seeing none, thank you everyone for coming up tonight. We'll move into council comments. I will start to my left, Councilor Lindy.
Again, congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Happy occasion, and condolences to Councilor Ellenberg on a sad occasion. I think this was a good meeting. I think we got a lot done, and it's even before 10 o'clock, so that's a good thing. I just want to remind people that 4th of July committee is still raising funds, so every Monday night at Barrett's, not to do a commercial for them, but they give 20% of what people spend on the bill to the 4th of July committee, and I've been told that that's probably the biggest fundraiser that they do the whole time. So if anybody goes out to dinner on Monday nights, go to Barrett's. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Hunt.
Yes. I also had the congratulations and the solace for the two of you. And I also wanted to congratulate the town on getting the 2 new water wells online. We've been looking forward to their completion and to put the wells through the treatment plant so the water for the residents of Wyman Meadows is treated now. It may still be a little colorful, but it's treated, so it's safe. I'm also wondering just a question when the Charter Review Committee is going to be appointed that we need to have this year for the 5-year review. Maybe that'll be answered at the next town council meeting, please. The council president appoints the committee. There's a great need for an in-depth review, particularly of the administrative code, due to many discrepancies in punctuation, grammar, and descriptions of committee definitions in the administrative code. So that would be a really good thing to have done. And I hope that sooner rather than later we'll move forward with an offer from the Attorney General's office and the Secretary of State's office to complete a training for both our town council and all the boards, committees, and commissions who haven't, in my acknowledgement and my knowledge for the last 15 years, had any training for any of the boards, committees, and commissions. And I think they're really in need of that. So it's just my comments for today.
Thank you. Councilor Murphy?
Just a few quick comments. First, as Ashley mentioned, I had the privilege of going to the State House last week and testifying for Chapter 70 money. As I mentioned before, when I proposed override numbers, I said that it's not just a Bridgewater problem, it's a state problem, and that I wouldn't just ask the citizens of Bridgewater to pay for it. I would also push the state to do the same. So I was just making true on that promise, and we'll continue to follow up on different topics, and would love to be a part of those future ones in the future meetings. I would also employ people to attend and ask those questions about the override. I think it's great that everybody get educated on anywhere other than Facebook. And so if you have the opportunity to attend one of these meetings, please do so, just to sit and listen and ask those questions or submit a question online and get an answer as well, too. It's just a good opportunity for folks to learn a little bit more about what's taking place. I'd also like to recognize all the positive events that are happening in Bridgewater over the next couple months. So the Memorial Day Parade, as a Veterans Agent mentioned, the Farmers Market and First Responders Day that the Fire for Effect Foundation has put on and is sponsored, and then the 4th of July, as Council Lindy had mentioned too. So a bunch of great events coming up over in the next month and a half, and looking forward to seeing a lot of people out at those events. And then congratulations to Councilor Loretti and the family, and also thoughts to Councilor Ellenberg as well, too.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Striggles?
Thank you very much. I will echo the congratulations again to you and Lauren on baby Lucy. And I expressed them privately, but again, I am very sorry for your loss. You're very welcome. Thank you to everyone that continues to come up and speak, and to those that come and engage in our town government. It does not go unnoticed, and we do not take it for granted. I want to specifically shout out, I've been doing a lot of override research in other towns, and that involves a lot of online video watching of live meetings. And I know we gave them a proclamation, but I think every single meeting we should thank BTV for the accessibility that they offer this community and the clear, concise communication that they offer the community, where the video is start to finish, easy to follow, easy to hear, and everyone has access to it. So I just really wanted to echo that sentiment. And finally, I will be speaking at the Juneteenth ceremony over at the library on June 16th at 3 p.m. So I encourage everyone to attend. That is going to be a great event. They typically have members of BSU and the high school attend as well. So it's a great community event, great for any type of civic engagement and just community engagement. So I encourage everyone to come.
Thank you. Councilor Ellenberg?
I want to say congratulations to you for baby Lucy. And I want to say thank you for everyone's expression of sympathy to me, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Kennedy?
First, congratulations. It's a big deal. First-time dad is a big deal. And I also want to extend my condolences again. Very sorry for your loss. Thank you both for your commitment to be here. I mean, those are major life events, so thank you very much for taking the time to be here. I'd also like to thank the public. Thank you for coming and speaking. It is important. The more involvement we have, the better this process runs. I think that the meeting tonight went pretty well. We covered a lot in a short amount of time, which is great. Thank you for bringing in the company that does the audit for the town. That's very much appreciated. It's one of the questions that I've been asked for the last few months. There's a lot of, for various reasons, lack of trust, and one of those issues is spending. When people see their roads are falling apart and their water is brown in their house, they want to know what their money is being spent on. They want to know where their taxes are going. And one of the topics that comes up is an audit. So it is coming from the people who live here who want to know where our money gets spent. And there are reasonable explanations for some of that, for sure. It's well documented. Some of it is involvement in educating themselves. But just having that resource here in front of everybody to ask those questions is, I think, is very important. And I think we were able to cover a lot with that as well. So again, thank you all for being here. Thank you for your time.
Thanks. And Ms. Vice President?
Thank you,
McGrath?
Mr. President. Congratulations, she's gorgeous.
Thank you.
And Addie, you know how I feel. Saturday, the CERT team, I got to say, the CERT team showed up and put all the flags on the cemeteries for the veterans. They did a really good job. It's a lot to cover, and I got to say the veteran agent did a really well job. He was well organized. I think it was the Boy Scouts who went up and counted them all to make sure we had all the flags. So I just want to shout out to the team and what a good job they did. Thank you.
Thank you. And lastly, my condolences again, Ms. Ellenberg, to you. I expressed them privately, but wanted to do that here. And I wanted to thank my fellow counselors for your support. And Laura and I are very excited. Thank you to residents and some new friends. We received an outpour of support from many of you, and it means a lot. And we really, really appreciate that. I'm running on a little bit of sleep, so I appreciate everybody for a great meeting, a productive meeting. Yeah, to having a great meeting and a productive meeting, and I look forward to continuing to do this work with you all moving forward. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we are adjourned. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it, Sean.